Jill, the old country club theater.
Trying to get everything that you didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Work over the last 2 years.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah.
Good for her. Yeah, 'cause I go to those
Yeah.
plays, they're a lot of fun.
Like I didn't work. I mean, I on paper was off like 2 weeks, the entire week of Christmas, and then all last week. So,
That was tough.
yeah. I know.
I'm just waking up.
Well, and then I was supposed to fly to New York yesterday, but my wife's 43-year-old husband, widowmaker heart attack, and just died on Saturday. Yeah, sad deal. Sad deal. So we've got that viewing on Thursday night, and then funerals and services and graveside. And in Salt Lake. Sandy.
You never know. I probably
Yeah,
come
he
up
was
with questions after
from
your
Taylorsville.
presentation.
So.
Yeah. And
Okay.
thank you very much.
Brittany, we almost ready?
We are almost ready.
Okay.
Cameras are rotating.
The doctor.
Rotate the cameras.
Okay.
No, we're ready when you are.
Okay. Give it a couple more seconds, then we'll jump in. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody out to the Roy City Council meeting. This is January 7th, 2025. Time is now 5:30. Want to recognize and welcome that we have Councilmember Saxton, Councilmember Paul, Councilmember Wilson, Councilmember Jackson, and Councilmember Scadden with us tonight. I'd like to recognize that our youth council member is not available, but hopefully in the next few meetings she will be joining us. With that, I've asked Councilmember Saxton if he will go ahead and lead us in a moment of silence, as well as the Pledge of Allegiance. Brian?
Thanks. If we could, please. Thank you. Now, if you would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, Council, we have some consent items. Hopefully you had a chance to go through those. I didn't see any changes, Brittany, on the minutes. If you've got something from someone else, perfect. It was a meeting I didn't attend, so obviously I would have been probably a little more astute. But if you got some, did anybody else have some changes for the minutes?
I do have some name
Please.
changes, so I'll get those to you. Yep.
Perfect, okay. Financial report, city council liaison assignments, and surplus vehicles. Any comments or questions relative to those 4 consent items? Okay, hearing and seeing none, then, do I have a motion then to approve the consent items?
So
So-
moved.
Thank you, Randy. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ann. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay. Those are approved. Thank you. This is our public comment period. If you have anything you'd like to share with us, any topic you feel comfortable with, please try to keep it within 4 minutes. All we ask is your name and your address. Pretty easy. Now, I should indicate to you, Larry, just so there's no confusion, we have a whole period of time set up for what you want to talk about ready for you, okay? You certainly can talk if you'd like and take advantage of 2 times, but if you want to just do it at the one time, it's the time that's coming up next.
I'll just keep it real brief because I'm going to go horse anyway. My name's Larry L. Kerr. United States Air Force, retired. 2 combat tours in Vietnam. I'm the chairman for the Utah Cold War Veterans Foundation. I have been for several years, either the vice chairman or the chairman itself. We started this organization in 2017 at the state capitol building. We gave out approximately 100 medals, and then the state dropped the funding and the publicity for this medal because they figured there's close to 70,000 or more veterans here in Utah alone that are eligible for this medal. We give the medal out to veterans from World War II, at the end of World War II, all the way up to 1991. That is a lot of veterans. You got the Korean War veterans, you got all Vietnam veterans, you got veterans in between those wars, all the way up to Desert Storm, Desert Shield. I've been asked about how many Vietnam veterans we've done here in Roy. I can estimate that over the last, 7 years, that we've done close to 600 probably. Because we didn't used to have the venue using the Roy Hope Center. We had to use Syracuse City Hall. We've done them out in Hooper. We've done them West Point. We've done ceremonies in Ogden, all over the place, Hiram, Morgan. And we'd ask the veterans to come to these sites to receive their medal. We also give the medal out to surviving family members, a wife or a grandchild. So we estimate that we've probably given out 600 medals in the last 7 years. That would be Roy residents. We've gave out probably well over 6,000 medals in those past 7 years. And we can verify that through Brightpoint, which is the only place that you can buy and receive that medal. So they would have an indication of how many medals that we've given out. I brought the Bible with me that goes back all the way to 2018 when we first started out as Utah Cold War Veterans Alliance. I was one of the founding members, and then we changed it over to the Utah Cold War Veterans Foundation. So that's what we are known as of today. I'll let that go as my 2 minutes, and then we'll get back on the document.
Okay.
If you have any questions, if Andy can't, he's our vice chairman. If he can't answer, I can figure it out for you because I have all the records and everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. Anybody else like to bring up any topic, any issue that they feel like they'd like to share? Okay. Just name and address.
My name is Paul Wilson. We're 1969 West 6000 South Lawn World. First of all, Mayor and Randy, I appreciate you guys being with me and discuss those few issues I had. Just to kind of, my problem is with the 6000 project, the drainage project. And Matt, thank you for calling me back. That drainage project, I'm trying to understand, we're held to a standard as citizens, and if I want to build something on my property, I have to go to the Planning Commission, get an engineered plan, get it turned in, get it approved by them, then brought over here to get things done on my end of it. So I'm wondering where that process is for the state, because the Planning Commission preaches everything is fair for everyone. It needs to be fair for everyone across the board. So how is the state coming in and letting a contractor that does work for them, regardless of who that contractor is, because the state's not doing the work out there on 6000. W. Clyde is, and Granite is. So my question is, where's the process for them to, on a project like this, where is their process? And I've asked Brody to get me some information. He's going to get with the city attorney and get something. I basically, from Brody, I got, well, it was talked about with everybody, and everybody just gave him the nod to go ahead and get it done. So I'm wondering who that everybody is. And Matt's going to get that to me, hopefully here in the next 10 days, so I can have some clarification on that, where this nod came from and who he's talking about with everybody gave the nod for this. Is it Planning Commission? Was it City Council? Who gave the nod? Because I'd like that nod for my property so I can build on my property, and that is fair. Okay, if anybody disagrees with that, explain to me how it's not fair. I have to go through the process just like everyone else does. State, city, whoever else it is. I mean, there's no inspectors out there. I have to have mine inspected and pay for that. I have to have my plans approved by an engineer, which is already an engineer's drawn up the plans for me. But I have to pay to have it second guessed. Engineers go through the same process to get licensed through the state. So it doesn't matter what engineer does this, they're not going to do it knowingly false. I would say that, speak on behalf of engineers. So I'm not sure where this process, why I have to go through this process with everything being fair if we're not going to be fair about it. If you're going to hold me to that standard, you need to hold the state to that standard also, regardless of who it is that's doing the work. That is just my main concern. And if there is a law or something that I don't know about that exempts the state, then we need to look into maybe the citizens being exempt too, because that would be fair. Because I'm not going to go and build something that's not going to be safe for my people or not going to be safe for me. I'm going to go through and do it and take care of it. And the reason you inspect it, I understand, is so we make sure we stay on that standard. Who's making sure that they're staying on this standard? Companies will shortcut things. I did this kind of work for 30 years. Companies, if they get the opportunity, they will short things. It's just the way it is out there. But I'm just, that's my main concern. And I know Steve has talked about being fair about everything, and that's all I want is fairness. If I need to build a building, I'm going to do it properly. I'm not going to make it look like garbage, but I don't know as to where I need to be second-guessed or overlooked if we're not going to overlook everyone. That's kind of where I'm at.
Okay.
On this whole process. And hopefully I can get some answers from everybody I spoke with and soon.
Okay, Paul.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else have a thought? We know you. Name and address.
Robert Percival, 6034 South, 2050 West. I'm here today in kind of a dual capacity. I'm here as a concerned resident of Roy City and as the president of the local union for firefighters, IFL 3854. There's a document, sorry, I'm getting old. There's a document in your worksheet today titled Employee Salaries and Benefits. As I read through this document, I found a few things that you might want to take into consideration that might not be considered totally monetary, but are very important when you're considering this issue. Such as, what is the cost of onboarding a new employee? Providing uniforms, protective equipment, gear, certifications, just to have them leave after we spend that money on them. I don't have the answers to these numbers, but I'm sure we can get them if you need them. Just to have them leave. I can't speak for other jobs, but as far as the fire service goes, there's a steep learning curve for a new hire. And if we spend our time, efforts, and resources mentoring and teaching these new hires, and they leave soon, we have effectively spent that time for another city or another entity training their people. We're not keeping that money in the city. We're sending that training outside the city. Another consideration, and maybe the most important one to me as a resident of the city, is customer service. This is behind everything we do as a city. That's why the city exists, is to serve our customers, which are the citizens and residents of the city. If we cannot retain quality and qualified employees, then we risk less than desirable outcomes on many emergency calls. Fire, medical, police, even water, and any other service the city provides. These outcomes can range from merely inconvenience to unnecessary loss of life and property. What does this all lead up to? In the reference document, it is stated 3 times that no merits and COLAs is an option. You have an option to not give employees merits and COLAs. I submit they are not optional if you want to keep Roy a safe, clean, and healthy place to live. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, anything else you'd like to share? Okay, seeing none, we'll go out of the public comment period and we'll go right to the presentation. This is the Utah Cold War Veterans Foundation presentation. Larry, I'll just indicate to you is that you certainly now can come up if you want to expand on what you said, or you can have Andy come up and simply make conversation. But if you have somebody else you'd like to in this presentation to speak as well, certainly if you'll just recognize them and bring them up.
Good evening. I am Andy Vigil. I'm the vice chairman of the board for Utah Cold War Veterans Foundation. And I'm was kind of surprised when I got so many calls from Diane. I hope I answered them all properly and respectfully, because I've been with them now, I believe, about 3.5 years. And Roy City has always been one of our best venues because we have so much room and so much, well, we have room for everybody. And we also have them, like Larry said before, to other cities. We go as far as up to Logan. We've done about 3 or 4 of them up there. But we are asking, I believe we did this at last council meeting, was asking for the $1,800 donation for our medals. And these are for veterans from who knows where. All we know is that they're veterans, and Utah wants to honor them, and seems to be like this is the hot spot because we get so many names. We haven't been able to do one in Syracuse for a while. I do not know why, but we're getting a lot of them done. Like Larry said, last year I think we did over 1,000, and probably most of them are done right here. But we do them out in Murray and everywhere. But if I did not answer any of your questions correctly, I tried. Anyway, this is Jan, and she is one of our secretary helpers, I guess we will call her. Anyway, Jan?
Okay, Jan?
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. So I got a call from Andy and then Larry saying that Councilmember Wilson had some very strong concerns about the city of Roy donating money to our organization. We have been blessed, and it truly is a blessing, to have the mayor involved with our organization and allow us to use the Hope Center. He is our most dynamic speaker. And we have even had veterans ask us, is the Roy mayor going to be speaking? If you've not heard his speech, you really need to come to one of our pinning ceremonies and listen to him. And you will be so proud that he is our mayor, because he's your mayor too. The reason we don't do Syracuse very often is because their current mayor, who is a veteran, doesn't like veterans. So he doesn't want us using their facilities. That's kind of the bottom line there, which is really kind of too bad because they have lots of veterans living over there that come over here, which is great. So I gathered some information. I sent an email out to all of you that we have over 140,000 veterans currently living within Weber County. We believe that regardless of where a veteran lives, they are entitled to their medal. Along with the Cold War medal that is presented, the Daughters of the American Revolution, whom I'm also a member of, and I'm at all the pinning ceremonies, we, for the Vietnam veterans only, present them with a 50th year anniversary Vietnam War pin. We have had men and women standing at our table, the DAR table, and when we tell them welcome home, they start to cry. This is not an exaggeration. We've had several little World War II veterans, when they've come to our ceremony, Some are in wheelchairs, some are on walkers, some literally have to be almost carried up to this wonderful line of military veterans in their uniforms to receive their Cold War medal. And when they receive that medal, you've never seen so many cute little old men straighten up and salute. They are so proud of their service to this country. In fact, just recently, this doesn't have anything to do with Cold War, but this is how proud of that these servicemen and women are of their service. The last living Pearl Harbor survivor was 105 years old, and he just passed away last week. He went there to Pearl Harbor every year he could because his friends are buried under that water, and it's the least he can do to tell them thank you, thank you, thank you. So in the city of Roy, this is just in Roy, I'll give you the breakdown again of how many veterans actually live here. For World War II, there are 54 veterans. For Korea, there are still 103, and it's hard to find those little Korean ones, let me tell you. But we hunt them down, we find them. In Vietnam, currently we have 829, and for the Gulf War, we have 332, and this is data that was taken not only from the VA, but other links that they have to actually published data. This doesn't account for Roy veterans who have passed away, who live in nursing homes outside of the city of Roy, or veterans like my brother-in-law, Gerald George, who was a very proud Army veteran. Because we had no room to bury him in Roy, we had to bury him in Hooper. We have awarded Jerry his Cold War medal to his son. He was so proud of his dad's service. Now, he also is chasing down veterans to give us their names. He'll call Jean up and say, Mom, I found somebody. As Andy and Larry have said, we hold our ceremonies literally all over. We've gone from Ivans in the south, Logan, Hiram, Woodruff. I don't even know where Woodruff is, but it's somewhere up there. As long as Jean knows how to get there, we're good. One of the concerns, I think, is how do we fund these medals? I'm going to tell you how we fund them. We have a lot of people who love these veterans. We have a lot of companies that love these veterans. We have private donors who love these veterans. And that's how we get our money. We get our money, we have jars at our meetings that people will put 20, 30, 40, we've even gotten $100 donations at the meetings. All of these monies that we have accumulated over the past 3 or 4 years goes directly to the purchase of buying more medals. We have 600 veterans buried in the Roy City Cemetery. I have got the list of their names. I have not yet gone through our other lists to compare who has received one, who has not. That's a cost of over $10,000. That's a lot of money. But every one of these people buried here, they deserve their medal. Their families deserve their medal. And maybe, their kids might not. Just think about this. You all have kids. I don't. But what we do with these veterans will carry forth down to the next 7 generations of these veterans' descendants. So not your kids, maybe not even your grandkids, but what about your great-grandkids? Because the truth of military service in families always comes up. It always comes up. So asking the city for $1,800 again this year, and, you know, from rewatching the tapes and reviewing the minutes, Diane, I don't believe there was a misunderstanding when Ann Jackson made the motion to support the yearly donation. We love our veterans. I'm proud that my mayor is a Navy veteran. I'm very proud of him. I watched part of Jimmy Carter's funeral today. And because my father was Navy, my husband was Army, but you know, I'm a Navy girl. I was so proud of those Navy men who don't even know who Jimmy Carter is. Probably had never even heard of him until they were tasked to come and be at, you know, the transfer of his body into the Capitol Rotunda. And to watch all those young Navy men and women and listen to their glee club singing, I was in tears. And I did not vote for Jimmy Carter, but I do think he's a phenomenal human being in everything that he's done. And all I can say is if Jimmy Carter deserved this fabulous farewell that he got, each one of our little veterans deserves this little medal and the little Vietnam medal. With the DAR, we have a special spousal medal that we give to surviving spouses of men or women who were actually killed while they were boots on the ground in Vietnam. These women, we haven't had very many men, but these women cry because they still have such strong feelings towards the Vietnam War. And they bring their kids and they bring their grandkids. And I'll tell you what, they're honored. They are so honored. Andy, out of his own pocket, gives out dog tags that he's had made to all the little children that come to the pinning ceremonies. So I'm going to wrap this up. And I really hope you reach really down. Now, I understand there's monetary issues, and I get all that. But you know what? It's not my fault. It's not anybody in here's fault that our economic growth is not what anybody would want it to be. I don't know why that is, because, I mean, Bob's as far as I get involved in politics, you know. And I'll ask him questions. He gives me answers, and I'm good with that. Uh-oh. The boss wants to say something. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you, Jan.
You're welcome.
There's a little bit of a misconception here about what is a Cold War veteran. As Jan mentioned, you know, with World War II veterans, Korean War veterans, Vietnam veterans, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Afghanistan, Iraq veterans. But the Utah Cold War Veterans Foundation is really about those veterans that served in between those wars. And there's thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of veterans that served in between those times. When we're in a parade on Veterans Day or so, we see those veterans standing on the sideline with their hat on saying Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, whatever. And we wonder why they're not on a float with us. And I'll tell you what they tell me. I didn't go to Vietnam. I was in Korea, or I was along the Berlin Wall instead, or I was in Panama, or Guatemala, or Honduras, or South Korea on the 38th parallel. I was not in Vietnam. Those are the veterans that we really chase down with a vengeance. I want those veterans. I want them recognized. I will tell their wife to bring that veteran to our ceremony. I'll tell them why he deserves that medal. Because while he was on a 38th parallel, we might have been in the Tet or something else. Or they may have been, as I say, along the Berlin Wall. There's so many Cold War events that the American public does not know about have no idea what we did. And I can tell you, I can get in my records and show you how many different countries we've been in, how many dictators we have overthrown to keep this world safe from the spread of communism. My brother was in the Bay of Pigs. I sent him a medal. He was a Marine. He's a Cold War veteran, but he's still a veteran. So we actively seek out what is a Cold War veteran. I have trouble with some Vietnam veterans that don't want anything to do with this medal, and we could understand why, because the way we was received. I have to look past that, and I do. I still have nightmares about things I've done, but I still want to do all the veterans, not just a Vietnam veteran or a Korean veteran or World War II veteran. I tell you this, we have been to nursing centers, rest homes. We've been down to the George E. Wayland Veterans Home. We've done every veteran down there. We went to the city of Randolph, and the entire town turned out. They were so proud of what we'd come up there to do. They told us how many veterans were there buried in that cemetery. And we went up there and did the entire town. Andy and I and others have went to their funerals and presented a medal to the family at funerals. I've actually went to a hospital of a veteran that was in the hospital receiving not a heart transplant, but he was on the list there. And so we chase them down. We don't turn away from them. So I hope that you open your hearts up and remember what a veteran is, and not just a war veteran, but all the veterans. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Larry, thank you.
Can you stay there for just a minute? Thanks. Would it be okay to ask a couple questions?
Well, yeah, but just recognize, and Larry, certainly if you can answer a question, that's perfect. But because we now have a whole discussion item that we're going to take this issue up, if you would really like to ask him questions for clarification, or Jan, or anybody, Andy, whoever speak, perfect, okay? But I'd like to carry the conversation about what the council does when we get into the discussion and come out of that conversation with what we're going to do. Now, I'd like to do it this way only because I think it's something we just need to kind of have a conversation on and let that be the settling part, okay, of that. So, but if you have some questions you'd like to ask for clarification, please do that, and council will certainly do the same thing, okay? Go ahead, Diane.
You had mentioned that you have the ceremonies in several other cities. How many other cities also donate for this funding?
I know Morgan has, Randolph a little bit, Hiram does, West Point did, Plain City did. Hooper has, for the George E. Wayland Veterans Home, the Hill Air Force Base Thrift Shop donated over $1,000. I know a couple of the Veterans Nursing Home and nursing homes for senior centers have donated at times. We get the donations from most of the communities we go through. If I have a board member in that city, let's take, for instance, Murray. We've done, before we done some nursing homes in Murray. Now we've done one in a ward, a church ward. And that board member is tasked with help raising funding down there, even though we put up donation jars. So far, we've been scraping by okay, I'll put it that way. We've even had some of our board members donate $1,800 to buy 100 medals. So most of the cities do. If it's not the city itself, some of the businesses in the city will help donate.
The University of Utah nursing program and
Yes.
Weaver State nursing program
Yeah.
are fabulous donors.
Yeah,
That's
DAR
wonderful.
to help us. We get donations from wherever we can. We don't turn any of them down.
That's good. And then I was wondering, I think it was Andy mentioned that at the state, that they did the initial funding, and it's in your flyer that way. And maybe you can just help clarify why the state chose to stop that funding.
I believe I wasn't invited to the Capitol building at that time. They wanted 100 veterans, and most of them at that time were your senior leaders in VFW, American Legion, things like that, DAV. At that time, I was not a senior member. So I found out about it about the end of 2017, and Craig Thorne is one of the primary founders, and his statement was the state just dropped the funding period because of the cost of the medals and even the publicity. Now, we have been on TV, we've been in newspapers, things like that, but we haven't had much luck with large corporations and stuff.
And then just for my own information in regards to the federal government, it looks like several states, you said 4, I think, states total are doing that. And I was just wondering, what is the federal government involvement or their neglect of that, or do they have reasoning that you are aware of why they're not involved in this?
Probably cost. After 20 years, I was a former mayor once, and I know about budgeting and what I call bean counting and things like that. It's not an easy job. I wouldn't do it again. But I believe because of the cost, to tell you the truth, Texas, Louisiana, Alaska, and Utah by far is the best state. We have the best medal design. I believe Texas makes you pay for a little dinky ribbon. We could research that, but other than that, no. State of Utah came up with the medal design and everything, and we do not give a ribbon with it, but just a medal and a certificate. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other questions for Larry?
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Do you get donations from the people that have come in and accepted the awards? Or
Yes,
do you
still-
ask for a donation at that time?
Well, in my, we make a program for everybody that attends, and then my program turns from 1 page to 2 pages, like 3 or 4, because I open the ceremony, close the ceremony, and things like that. But yes, included in our closing remarks, we remind them again, because we bring a Utah Cold War traveling exhibit. And we have things like sea rations and other stuff related to war, and 2 donation jars. We sell a Utah Cold War Veterans Patch and a Veterans Advocate Patch for $10 each. Sometimes we raise a little money that way. However, the medal and cert total costs us $20. We do not charge for a certificate because we donate that, but the medal itself is $18. Now, sometimes I've found change in the donation jars and things like that where I know little kids and stuff have put money in there, but we never ever demand that any veteran pays for their medal. It's not going to happen. As long as we got medals and funding, they do not have to pay for that medal or ceremony or anything.
So how many ceremonies, how many medals do you give out per ceremony?
Normally,
Is there
we
minimal
schedule
or-
45 to 50 veterans and families at every ceremony. And now, depending on the size of a town or city, we may go do 25 or 30. George E. Wayland, we did about 103. A city like Hiram, I believe we did 43. A nursing home, it may be 20 or 25, so I don't take a whole staff. We have 11 board members scattered throughout the state of Utah, all the way down to Ivins and St. George area. So each district, as we call them, that board member's in charge of his area as far as fundraising and the whole 9 yards. The money we collect up here stays up here.
So what I'm saying is like, because I went to one of them and watched, Bob do a great job over there, and I can't remember how many you award at that one ceremony that
It's
night?
usually about
just
40, 45, we hope. Now, we do
like
have,
like in a 2 hours, like
yeah, about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
hour and a half, you can get
Yeah.
45 people done in that.
Yeah. We have to hurry a little bit, but we allow time for the veteran to take pictures with his family. I get criticized a lot because it's too long of a ceremony, but I look at it and I tell them this way, it's for that veteran and their family and their loved ones. We're going to give them that 3 or 4 or 5 minute time to take pictures, render to salute, the whole 9 yards. I do catch a lot of criticism. As a mayor, Robert probably catches a lot more than I do, but I'm just telling you, it comes with the job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, my father was a World War II veteran, and I know how it affected his life serving in the war. And I love what you do. I would love to get my father on that list.
Do it,
I mean,
please.
he passed away in 1988, but he didn't see my mom for 2.5 years, and it changed his life.
If you can get me the name and if you know the branch of service and the dates.
He's in the Army, and he's buried in Roy City.
Okay. Would you give me the information?
I
and
certainly would. Yeah.
we'll have him and you and your family for January 17th. I'll get her done.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Any other questions, council? Okay, Larry, thank you. Okay, we will bring this conversation up here shortly, okay? And we'll finish and let the council kind of discuss it. So, okay, with that then, thank you. I'd like to move into the discussion items real quickly. Council, the discussion about the fiscal year 26 budget cycle, I put a paper in there. The intent of the paper would be, and let me just give you a little history so you understand why we need to have this conversation. What I'm going to ask of you would be, would you be okay if in fact we start earlier to start to have a work session on budget, to bring the council together and just start some dialogue? It won't be all the time, but it's certainly a conversation I think we ought to have, and then allow us then working with staff to try to find a way ahead. Now, normally, what would take place is that you would basically get a packet in May. Matt, you're required, I think, by ordinance to provide us a packet as a council, and then from May to June 30th, we have to now approve a budget. There's some unique situations unfolding, I think, that we need to talk about, and by talking early, we can look at questions, look at issues, look at it from different perspectives, but more importantly, if you'll just take the information that we have ready for you, if you'll just look at it, read it, and then do me a favor, if you will, take that information and start asking questions to department heads, certainly to Matt, to Brody, and see if in fact your questions you can get answers as we start now assembling this. And then when we have these meetings, you can come in with some ideas, some things that we might be able to do so we can frame ourselves a budget before the May 1st timeline that Matt can move forward with his staff and be ready to fill his obligation, which is that he has to provide a budget back to you for consideration. So the purposeness of that paper was to begin the conversation. And we'd like to begin the conversation if we can in January, sometime between now and the end of January. Some of you have commitments going into February, recognizing that's good, but if at least we can start the conversation between that, would you be okay with that?
I think it's absolutely necessary. Yeah.
You okay? Okay. Now, the law says, whatever that means, the ordinance says, the mayor can just call the meeting. I mean, I don't have to basically ask for your permission, but that would be rude, okay? Honestly, it'd be rude to do that to you. But if you're okay with that, then we'll go with a consensus that says, hey, let's go ahead and we'll get together and do that. It could very well be a work session that takes place in the next meeting, which would be the 21st. We can do it then, or we can set up a different time that's effective for you. But if you're okay with that, we'll ask Brittany if she will go ahead and we'll start organizing, come up with some recommendations, look at your schedule, and then see what fits, and we'll go ahead and call for a work session. You okay? Okay, I didn't want to spend a lot of time. The only purpose of the discussion would just simply get your concurrence, you'd support it, and it sounds like we're good. So Matt, Brittany, if you can help us, let's go ahead and we'll finish this conversation there. Okay, with that, the next conversation, the discussion item would be is the Utah Cold War Veterans Foundation donation. I was not here in the last city council meeting. I wish I was, because where I was at was not that fun. And, but a result of that, Diane, you're the mayor pro tem. You led the conversation then. I ask you if you go ahead and continue the conversation so we can draw a conclusion from this discussion item. So with that, Diane, I'm going to let you go ahead and maybe you can talk a little about where we were and then maybe your thoughts in terms of that. And we'll open up for the council to put input and come up with some recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you. It's very timely that you came to give the presentation today and allow us to ask a few more questions. So certainly this endeavor is very worthwhile, and we applaud you very much for the passion and the dedication that you have put towards this. I think it's a wonderful service that you're providing. And Jan, thank you for that information you sent to us, because I thought that was very helpful as well. So in essence, I believe it was in August of '23, we, as a council, committed $1,800 to this project. And then it's come up again with that request. And so I guess with that, I think it's all written in the worksheet, and we have also had it reviewed with our presentation. I think one of the key things is maybe some of the sides thought that this was going to be a yearly contribution, and maybe other people on the council did not understand it as such. And so that's one thing that I think needs to be addressed is if we move forward with something like this, is it yearly or is it on a one-time thing? I think generally we do one-time donations because we hate to be committing future councils to something like that. The other clarification was the Roy citizens, and that was also, I think, very well described, and the information was given at this current presentation. And the Roy City has done several ceremonies, and thanks to the mayor, we've been able to participate with in-kind donations because of the facility that we have and the mayor's time in setting that up, and that's, I think, saved a lot of money, which has been very good for them. So I think it comes down to realizing that this is a phenomenal program, that the servicemen and servicewomen have served and sacrificed for our benefit. And then we have to, as a city, decide where that fits in for us, because we are currently in a difficult financial strait, as the mayor has alluded to, for this year's budget. And then part of it is, what is the role of the city government? Even though we think a project or something might be absolutely beneficial, is it the role of the city to donate funds for that? So I think it kind of comes down to those sorts of things. Luckily, we have been able to do the in-kind donations. In summary, is it our role to do it? And that's hard to kind of put into words. The budget is very tight, and so we have already asked in this last year the different departments to cut their budgets by a significant percent. It was a 7.5% cut for this last year's budget. And so with that being said, it's hard to know which donations need to be trimmed or continued or cut as well, because we are in a difficult situation. And so I think with that, then we say, is this something that the city can participate in? Can we partially participate? Do we fully participate with the $1,800 that's been requested? And then also, it's hard to know where it fits in for Roy citizens. My understanding is that at these ceremonies, probably 50 to 60% of the citizens are from Roy that receive these medals. Does that make a difference or not? It sounds like Roy citizens have gone to other ceremony presentations as well, not in Roy. But when we have a very tight budget, sometimes that needs to be taken into consideration. So with that, I think those are the thoughts that I have in mind as we try to make this decision as appropriately as possible, realizing there is absolutely no doubt that this is a phenomenal cause and a very important mission that you have been on and that you've been trying to fulfill. So I will leave it at that and then ask for input from the council members.
Okay, let's go ahead, council. Do you have comments you'd like to share in terms of that? And what I'd ask then, when we get done with your comments, then just give us kind of direction, what you'd like to do. And if the majority of the council moves in a certain direction, then certainly we'll follow that lead. So with that, comments?
I had talked to the mayor today and to, I'm on the beautification committee, and so I talked to a member of our committee, and we didn't do anything with our money last year, and so we would like to donate $1,000 out of our beautification fund from last year's money towards this wonderful program.
Okay, other thoughts? Let me just make sure it's clear in terms of the conversation that took place that says whether this should be a yearly donation or just an ongoing. With the city councils in the past, we welcome individuals to come to the city council, stand in front of the pulpit as we heard today, and make their recommendations, make their request. And in many cases, whether that be the YCC, certainly we had it for the it was a Future Farmers Association. I mean, I go through my mind of all the opportunities. They do come. And when they do, the council then assesses that and looks at the situation today, and either they agree to support or they don't. And it works. It certainly would be benefit for the donation to go, if it was done yearly, by convenience, but it also, unfortunately, would strap every city council in the future to have to be obligated, and we don't do that. If there is a need to do that, I will tell you, the policy we have is establish an interlocal agreement, and that interlocal will have a timeline of how long that donation or that process will work, and then as a group is signed by all parties and then approved finally by the city council. We didn't have to do that because we've invited and should invite then anybody who says we'd like to be part of an effort and we'd like Roy City to be part of that, then come, present your case. We certainly heard a case today, and as a result of that, then make a decision. And then we would expect that to be every year, to have every city council make that decision based on the situation of today. And so that's the reason why we don't basically give a 1 year and then every other year after that, although it has been done and there are some things, but those require interlocal agreements signed between all parties, and this one was not one. But, so that kind of answers that conversation. So, but to the point in terms of what you've heard, certainly the information that Diane has put on the table for us to consider, she provided a paper for us to look at. What do you think? And if you have questions or ideas or things you'd like to share, this is the time to do that, because once you feel you've completed that, I want to ask you to give me some direction of how we move forward.
Yeah, no, this is a tough one because, to like Diane's point and my personal point of view too, is it's a fantastic endeavor, but we did just have every one of my department heads that I'm having to look at down here this last year, we said cut in their budgets. And we had them cut 7.5%, which equated to over $600,000 in just different various programs for just the employees. It's fantastic that, you know, we found in the beautification committee, that's great that we found $1,000 there. I'm good with that if we want to take and shift that over and across. And again, it's just it's tough because again, it's honorable. It's what we should do. But again, it's just hard for me to. I'm having to look down because I can't look at my department heads right now because I know what I just put them through in this last budget cycle, and we're going to give a donation in kind when that's money that we could have taken and also invested just as readily into our employees. So.
Okay, Randy, thank you. Anybody else? Sophie?
So yeah, a quick comment on Joe and I were able to be a part of this beautiful program, and it is hands down I've been to another one and it was done very well. My concern would be, is there a way to get the people that are getting the donation or that are getting the medals and the awards to contribute to that? And I know you said you would never demand, but it's more of an ask, because if we were, as walking in there saying, hey, this medal costs, and I know you explained that a little bit in the presentation, but if we were, I won't say this is what it costs, please donate that. I think every person getting that donation or getting that medal would donate that. And I think that makes the 1,000 or whatever from beautification committee, and then a little bit from the people that come in and get those awards. I think you've got a little bit more, I think there's some room to get that, so that when this, or if this ever does, I think we can come up with some money this year. I'm comfortable with coming up, but I don't, moving forward, this coming year it's going to be even harder. So how do you, I want you guys to plan for the future so this doesn't go away. That's my point.
Okay.
Well, and I would be willing to try to help you fundraise. I know I have brothers that are veterans also, and I know for sure one of my brothers would definitely donate, and Paul said he would donate. I know a lot of veterans, and I mean, if it wasn't for our veterans, we wouldn't be here today and have the freedoms that we have. And so I just feel that it's just, I know that we've had to cut for departments, but probably most all these department heads have family members that were veterans, grandparents or great-grandparents, or people that fought for our liberty and our freedoms. And I just feel that this, they should have to, approve it every year. And maybe one year they had a generous donation, so they might not have to ask for $1,800. But I just feel that it's something that I feel very passionate about it, just coming from a veteran's family. And I just feel that if we could just do it this year with the help of the beautification committee, and then take the $800 out of whatever fund, and hopefully with some new businesses that are coming in that we're going to get tax revenue from, and maybe sell some property and do some other things, that we'll be in a better situation next year to help out all of our departments, and maybe, not have as big cuts. But I feel that I just feel very passionate about it, that we got to figure something out for these guys. So.
Okay.
Question.
Thank you, Ann. Go ahead.
First of all, if beautification gives 1,000, Matt, where does the other 800 come from?
I mean, that's really, it's not a budgeted line item. The only other place that I could say it would come from is council contingency. That's where we took it out from last year as well.
Oh, was that?
Yeah.
Okay, that was my next question. My thoughts is my dad was a World War II veteran, a boots-on-the-ground infantryman that was twice as tough, at least, as I am. And so I think whatever we need to do, if there's a group that we need to do it for, it's this group. And I don't want to commit next year's council, because I'm not sure who's going to be here.
Right.
But that being said, I think this year, a donation, I know we do some in-kind things for them as well, but still, I'd hate that. I really would hate to see them have to pay for their own medal.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't want to go that route. No offense, Councilwoman.
No offense taken, but I think those that go to those would gladly pay for that medal.
Yeah.
And I, like I said, I don't want to see this go away, so I want to find other ways to get funding for, in case, who knows, in a year where this council is and where, if it's going to be approved again. I just want to have an idea of a direction, I guess, so it doesn't go away.
Okay. Well, council, I think have been great comments. Okay, thank you. I think we've got that. What I've heard on the table at this moment would be is two of you have indicated you would support Ann's recommendation to simply see if we can pull $1,000. It may be on a budget line item, but to be very blunt with you, we can move budget line items to some extent, okay, wherever we want them. But since she suggested $1,000 out of one particular budget item, and that seems to be at least something that was workable for at least two of you, maybe three of you, we can say, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Or if you think there might be something else to gain the other $800 from some other source, then I'd suggest is maybe put that on the table. But at this moment, I at least heard $1,000, and it's very specific from a particular account. Would you support then $1,000 at least, or do you want to consider more, the full request?
I would say the full request. I mean, if we're pulling 1,000 out, we're only coming out 800. I got $50 from my grandmother for my birthday that I'll take and donate, so that gives you $1,850. And so, because I never carry cash, and I was like, why do I have cash in my wallet? So it'll be a cash donation that I'll hand personally to one. I trust every one of you. So what you're asking is, should the motion be for 1,000 for beautification with the other 800 coming from?
It just comes from wherever we pull out of the city's contingency. If it happens to be the council contingency fund, then that's where we pull it. If you're saying is go with the full request of $1,800, Matt and I will find out where we pull it from. That will not be a problem. I just need to make sure that I get 3 head nods. This is not a formal request, because I'm not asking you to vote on it. I just need 3 of you to simply says, I think we're going to do $1,800, and with $1,800, we'll make it happen.
$1,800, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I got the 3 plus. So Matt, you and I will execute that requirement, and we'll make arrangements for that. Okay, thanks for the input. Okay, we appreciate that. And we now need to go into the city managers and council reports. So Matt?
Yes, just a couple of things for you tonight. In last year's budget, we allocated some funds for Fox Glen Park for a new playground facility over there. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because also during those conversations, we talked about that being a matching grant for the ramp this year, which is coming up very, very soon.
Yep.
We are going to still proceed with that grant and ask for additional funding for that park down there for the major. For the minors, we last year and the year prior to that, I believe, we did the concert in the park. So we're going to do that as our number 1 priority with the minor ramp grants. And then also, Michelle came up with some ideas in the 5-year strategic plan. We talked about planting new trees. That is something that was cut from the budget with that, the budget cuts from last year. So we were talking about doing another minor grant for trying to get some beautification money for trees down in the parks. So that was the ideas. I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention. We typically had some meetings in previous years in December of what we are going to do for these ramp grants. But we did that sooner in the budget, so I just wanted to go over that. Also, today we had a UDOT meeting, discussed several things, but wanted to just come up with the highlights of what that meeting was. Pavement, curb, gutter, and sidewalk will be completed by next year on the north side of 5600 South. From what the public sees, you guys are going to notice that I-15, the lane changes, everything will be done by the end of 2025. They'll be doing work the next year, but for the most part, you would think it was completed. And then also the Ped Bridge, they're ahead of schedule, so early spring is when they're talking about opening the pedestrian bridge across the DRNG trail.
So when did you say
highlights.
that the north side sidewalks can be done before school starts again?
They just said by next year, so you're going to really see like the whole
So maybe
corridor.
not by
Yeah, it
August
could
when
be.
the school starts. So.
Correct, yeah. So that's it.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Council, any comments, questions you have?
I just
Anything you'd
want to
like share?
thank the departments that put up all those beautiful lights for the city. I've got so many comments on them. our vice principal who lives in North Ogden texts me, is there a bathroom there if I bring my kids? He actually took them in the fire station to use the bathroom, but he said it was one of the best ones that he went to. And I just appreciate all the hard work that everybody went in to do that and make it so beautiful, so.
I personally think it's the best light show, literally in northern Utah. It was absolutely incredible this year, and when people, and I share this with you, Council, to support your comment, and if you don't mind, coming in from the north and you're driving on 1900, it's kind of all dark. You get a light here, but on the horizon as you come up, you start to see Roy City, and how the lights are set up, how everything, and then you hit the fire station, and then you see really the glamour and the beauty, okay, of all those lights. Great work, okay, from all the team members. I know there's a lot of people that basically were part of that, but it really was a great show. It's a great show every year, but I'm telling you, it was a great show this year as well. So thank you, thank you, thank
Right.
you. Okay.
I also wanted to, I know we've been getting all those emails about the soccer down at Emma Russell. I was hoping that that gentleman would have came tonight, but I spoke with the West Haven rec director right before I came, because me and Matt went on a little drive yesterday and saw that they had some freestanding, had some up permanently, and I asked him, how that worked out for his city, and he says, well, he's like every other city. It gets vandalized, and the turf, and so he's thinking of maybe taking those out. But I've been discussing this with my family, because I always like to get their opinions, because they always give me honest ones. and they just felt like, and we came up with the suggestion, how you take them down November 2nd. I just think that the seasons have changed. And I don't think I remember we used to take our grandkids sledding every Christmas break. I can't remember last time we were able to do that because of the snow. We don't have the snow. I was just wondering the possibility of maybe not taking down the goals until December 2nd. Maybe at least try it 1 year and see how that goes. Or maybe, because like I told my kids how, you go and take them off the grass, but you put them in the parking lot, and they're like, well, you can vandalize them in the parking lot just as much as you can on the grass. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's a true statement. But I was just thinking maybe and I know you don't like to have them up because there's not lighting there, but maybe 1 year if we could put the ones closest to 4300 across the street from them house. My grandkids used to play on those ones right there. Maybe just try 1 year leaving them up a little bit longer, and just trying to work something out to just try to please everybody, since it is not just for club teams. And I didn't know, Michelle, if you just wanted to maybe think about that and see if that could maybe be worked out to leave them up a month longer, because then Thanksgiving would be over, and the chances, if it snows, he's not going to use them anyway. Who knows? We have crazy weather. You never know what it's going to be. But I just, reading all those emails that he's been sending, I was just trying to come up with something that would make him happy and work both for you in your parks department also, so.
We could explore leaving them up a little bit longer. I'd hate to put a solid date to it, because we determine it by when we start to get a lot of freezing temperatures overnight and all the frost on the grass.
Right.
Would be when we would be more likely to pull them as
Yeah.
opposed to saying December.
Yeah, and that's different every year. I mowed my lawn in December, and that's never happened for a long time. And so, okay.
Well, so I think, Matt, we got a task, and maybe because it seems to be more of a hard date, maybe to Michelle's point, it may very well be a condition that exists there. And if the condition is that we're not seeing the freeze or we're not seeing snow, maybe the condition is when it reaches a certain point, she pulls them based on the condition and not necessarily a hard date. Could you come back to the city council then maybe with an idea or a recommendation and see if that will fit? I think we owe it to the process to at least consider all options, but by the same token, I think we also have to look at safety. I think we have to look and make sure that damaged. For the record, recognize the fact they were donated to the city. And so there's an expectation on the part is we take care of them to the level that we can. And so I think if we just recognize all the nuances associated with this decision and then make a decision, I think that's a good idea. But if there's a possibility, could you come back with an idea that says we make the decision to take them down and lock them up, predicated on maybe more of the condition or the environment by which they are, and maybe not a hard date in terms of a month. So is that okay, Ann, from your point? Okay.
When do you put them back up in spring?
Come up towards the end of March, first part of April.
Yeah.
Games officially start April 1st. That's when we tell everybody our fields are open, so you'll see them start coming up as soon as they get that.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, anybody else have a comment they'd like to share?
I just want to agree with the Christmas lights. Fantastic. It's so fun to listen to all of the input that we get from people far and near. So makes everyone smile, especially that they're on in the morning a little bit when you're going to work early, you know. Just makes you smile, makes your whole day better. So thank you.
It does. Nice job.
And thanks for getting all our roads plowed. I'm glad nothing happened on Christmas or Christmas Eve, so all of your employees could stay home with their families.
With that, and I appreciate you taking the lead on that, because I should indicate to you, Brandon, people called me when we had this last storm, and they said, man, I'd certainly like to get on. I won't mention cities because this is a public meeting, but I'm just going to tell you they called, and they're living there. And they says, they're saying to me, he says, well, I'll be there, but I'm going to be an hour late or something because our roads aren't clear. And then Brandon, I reminded them, I says, that's not happening, Roy. I says, that road is clear. We're ready to get out and get it done. And I think they were somewhat surprised. Your team does a wonderful job. Even at the wee hours of the morning, they're out, they're getting the things done they need to get done. It's a great compliment to be able to say that to people, that Roy City is on top of this and makes things happen. So thank you. Thank
So
you.
do you have one guy that watches the weather and then they give everybody else the phone call, it's snowing?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. Great work on all team members. I'll tell you, it's just, it's a great place to live in Roy City. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Okay, I will indicate to you, I'm going to go into a motion to go into closed-door meeting. That means we have to excuse everybody, okay, because it is a closed-door meeting. But thank you for joining us tonight. Council, then, do I have a motion to enter a closed-door meeting?
I motion that we enter
Okay.
a closed-door meeting.
Thank you. Ann?
Mayor, yeah, you got to state why.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I did the same thing. Thanks, Matt. To discuss potential sale of real estate property. Okay, that's the reason. And we're going to hold that right here in the city council meeting. Okay, do I have a motion then to go in a closed-door meeting? Ann?
Yes,
Thank
so
you.
moved.
You made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Randy. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We okay? Okay, we're in it. Okay, we're going to have a closed-door meeting. Just take a couple of seconds. We'll go ahead and clear, and then we'll start the discussion. And Brody, I think you're going to lead the conversation.
Okay, I'll call you. He was very hard on his life. Yeah, I'll tell you all about it. Okay, thank you.